Hi, I'm Gina Ryan, Director of Hardin County Educational and Community Television, and today we have a special version of Issues and Insights because we really want to talk about one of the most innovative, environmentally sound community efforts that started over 50 years ago, and that was Greenspace. And so for those of you that have moved in just recently, you really need to make yourself aware of this trail system and what it has really brought to our community. So today my guests have been involved with Greenspace early on as a child and in other realms, other avenues also. So I'm going to ask each one to introduce themselves and just briefly say what their initial involvement has been. So,
my name's Martin Noel, and I joined the board approximately 10 years ago. I'm treasurer. And my mother kind of got me involved in the 70s because she was on the original group that started Greenspace.
And that's Joan.
Yes, Joan Noel.
Yeah.
Yes, and
Awesome.
It's been a good adventure and good learning for me. I really enjoyed, helping the area with getting trails, getting people outside, mental health. That was real big a few years ago.
Yes.
I was using the trails a lot back in 20. So, yes, I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad I'm on the board.
So you probably started as a child working and doing things with the trails, right?
Yes, yes. Fruit pizzas at Heartland. We used to do fruit pizzas. So I was cutting fruit, making pizzas, and just a variety of things over the years.
You do whatever it takes.
Yes, you do.
When you're helping your mom and dad do things.
You do.
Okay. All right, Paula, tell us about your role.
I'm a newly appointed special events coordinator for our upcoming 50th celebration, and but I go back to I'm one of a volunteer, but an avid hiker and biker on our trail system. So when we talk about trails, I know them. I know the rocks. I know the roots. I know the dirt, and early on, many years ago, my husband was on the board, and now he does the newsletter and has done that for many years. And so you kind of know, as a husband-wife team, you typically help out, or you're totally aware of what's going on because you're proofreading the newsletter. So I have always been on the periphery of the committees, but this time, in the last several months, I've kind of stepped up a little bit to help out with this 50th celebration.
That's right. And Senator Matt Deneen.
Matt Deneen. I've been on Greenspace board for, I guess, now 6 or 8 years now. As the former special events coordinator, I've got involved with Greenspace to renovate some of our trails, to make them more user-friendly, and to really get into assisting us expand these trails. It's been a joy to do a lot of fundraising, a lot of marketing, from the Bridges to Nature project at Freeman Lake Park to the renovation of several trails, and to see the expansion of Buffalo Lake trails under our president, David Haynes. So we've seen a lot of wonderful things come about, and now that I'm on the state level, I've been able to kind of direct some funding to come down our way to help with our parks and trails.
The history of it. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Paula?
Well, our early history had very humble beginnings. If you can picture several far-sighted individuals who came together and began with a vision, and they developed a Green Belt Committee in the early 70s, so well over 50 years ago, and came up with policy and plans for the management of the area around Freeman Lake, because the lake was developed in the 70s, and this is where I see this vision that popped into their heads. By 71, we had a Boy Scout group that led the first public walk, and we had actually 89 people that were on that walk.
Wow, I mean, that's pretty amazing.
In 72, the city planning adopted a trail map, a trail map plan. Hadn't been quite developed out yet, but by 73, a formal organization was formed. And then the City Council also improved the Green Belt implementation of this plan, and in so doing, they designated all of our streams to be a conservation area. And then in 1974, they were incorporated into the city by Mayor Pritchard.
I was wondering who the mayor and who was serving on the
right.
council at that time, so.
Well, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Mary Sprague. She was a driving force like a bulldozer.
She was, and she was probably shorter than I.
And she was behind the dream of Greenbelt, and I think her vision, along with others, saw many of the trails that had been built. We now have 15 trails. They range from 5 miles out at Freeman Lake to a half a mile at Pirtle Trail. So, our goal is to surround our city, and I think these first founders of Greenspace would be very excited to know that we are getting ready to celebrate our 50th anniversary, and we're going to do that in a very special way out at the Freeman Lake Pavilion Bandstand on the 21st of September, and we're going to have a tent with tables and great farm-to-market food and entertainment. I think our entertainment is the Misty Mountain String Band. So we can hope that everybody will be able to come out and join us. But our main focus is the awareness and enjoyment of our trail system.
Now, Paul, Martin, can you tell me about the comprehensive plan and how that started and what does it pertain to?
Well, like she said, back in the 70s, they started a plan, but we really didn't develop a big plan until recently. We've put out some bids for about 5 different companies to do us a comprehensive plan. And it's nice to say that in about 2 days, we're going to pick that company that we've chosen to do the plan for forward growth for Greenspace. So we're looking forward and beyond for the next 50 years for growth.
Matt, with the different trails, can you talk to how does the money come from this, the grants? What can it be used for?
There's a lot of, most of Greenspace's support comes locally from our local businesses, from individual donors, from people that have been with Greenspace since its beginning, and they are leaving a legacy and helping us with donations. There's also grant opportunities that we've been able to tap in over the recent years from local businesses and national organizations. So it's been a collective effort, and it's been a collaborative effort from the local government and the investment from the city of Elizabethtown, all the way through to the hard work of the Greenspace board members in bringing in banks, healthcare providers, other insurance providers. We've even partnered up with bourbon companies, and as you know, our bourbon trail is very famous around the world, but they've recognized our efforts, and so they've helped us on many occasions, and that has kind of culminated into becoming Kentucky's first urban trail town. And I think that was really a jewel for all of the efforts of the people that have come before us, and our presidents and past board members, and that happened in 2019.
And what does the urban trail, what does that mean?
And so becoming a part of the Trail Town program is a state program, state tourism program, adventure tourism. And so with that, that program has never been funded. And this last session, I'm very excited to announce that for the first time, we were able to secure some money into the state budget for the trail towns. And there's 29 of them across the state. And of course, with Elizabethtown and Greenspace involvement in our trails, we will be eligible for a $25,000 grant to help continue those efforts in making kiosk signs, putting out maps, helping to pay for trail improvements and equipment. So very excited about that. But there's a lot of other conservation money that's coming in that will impact Greenspace as well. From the nature preserves, we were able to secure $2 million for the State Kentucky Land Trust Fund, and they invest in nature preserves and, of course, a lot of the trails that we will be using and will eventually become a part of Greenspace in this area. So we have a lot of glad to see a lot of movement on the state level in making funding available through a multitude of different entities. And one of the ones that I think I'm really excited about is the $1 million we're able to secure for the Elizabethtown Parks and Trails Conservancy. And that is new, and it's never been done, and we are actually working with the city to get a building built and to where we can do some nature education programs and house a green space in the future and some of our events there. So we're excited
Now,
about
where
that too.
did that grant come from?
That was just a direct line item funding request that I put into the state budget this last session.
Wow,
And
great
I
job.
want to thank my colleagues. I mean, I don't want to take the full credit because that is really comes about by a lot of my colleagues in the House and the Senate agreeing with this expenditure and thought that this would be a great way to enhance tourism in our Commonwealth and to support the parks and trails not only in Elizabethtown but all of central Kentucky. And they wanted to use us as that central location to do that. So I'm very, very excited about that.
That's amazing. That's great. Paula, can you talk about the first trail and kind of go through the evolution of the trails, or Martin? Can you all discuss that?
Well,
And you don't have to go in the exact
Okay.
order, but just from the beginning to
The-
where we're going to be too.
Okay, the Freeman Lake Trail was our first trail, and when the lake went in, and if you can just picture this raw body of water, and what it is now, it still is just, it's hard to even see how beautiful it is from where it began. But I can't tell you how long it took for that trail to develop, but it has developed over time. And as Matt said earlier, that he has gone from a raw trail to paving parts of the trail to the bridge. What was our bridge?
Bridges to Nature
Bridges
project,
to
yeah.
Nature project, because many times the bridges that were developed by the Boy Scouts and built with wood that eventually rotted. So we've been in a long process over the years of replacing things that are with materials that will last much longer. And I can't exactly tell you where we went from the Freeman Lake Trail, but there are a lot of offshoots from that trail. I know over at Buffalo Lake that was developed quite some time ago, and but that's only like maybe 3 miles, but I think now with the mountain biking over there, it's up to 10 miles for the mountain biking part of that trail.
Does each trail have like a marker where it starts to help a person know,
Yeah.
rather than going in the trees and not knowing where you're going?
Well, as a hiker, that's the first thing you ask anybody, where's the trailhead? And you get your coordinates. And we actually, in our kiosk at all of the trailheads, there's a map, and there's a map on our website, and it actually speaks to all of the trails. So you get a feel for the mileage of each one of these trails. And I think that's good for our tourists who come and go, I need something short, but I want it in this area because this is where we're staying, and that's helpful.
So tourists that come into E-Town, where is the closest trail to this, let's say that I-65?
I-65?
Yeah, I-65 at 91, exit 91. So those that are staying in those hotels over there, there's
Right.
close
Oh,
trails.
Buffalo Lake Trail is right there. And there are actually 2 entrances, and everybody, I think the locals have certain favorite ones. I don't know about the mountain bikers. They probably have their own favorite trail they like to go into, or the trailhead. But for a tourist, it would be easy to find. And Martin, you can maybe help me out with this. I think we're trying to make a connection from the furthest hotel, which is the closest one to the trail, where you could literally leave the parking lot of that hotel and connect to the trail from the parking lot. That would be ideal. And that, I think, is in the works.
A number of things have been added through the years, and there's locations on some of the trails that have a lot of meaning. Can you talk about the Emerald Cathedral area and then the new amphitheater that we have?
Matt had a lot to do with the Emerald Cathedral area.
Well,
He took that rundown area that was developed at one time and rebuilt it. And
Right.
it is a beautiful location now with a stage where you can do speakers, you can do weddings, you could do music. So it's a very beautiful location now.
It is, and we've had some really nice groups out there performing.
We've had some good concerts out that way, and I'd be remiss if we didn't mention the trail that the city and our tourism department is developing from Commerce all the way downtown to our historical downtown. And that is a wonderful feature that will have so many. It will be a paved trail all the way along the railroad track that will lead you from our hotel district right downtown to our businesses and small businesses in our restaurant district. And that's the great thing about Greenspace here locally. And it's a model for others to follow. They come in, they see how our trails are really leading people into our historical districts, our neighborhoods. They back up right up to our developments and even our sports park. We have trails right there. So when tourists come in and they look for a place to recreate or something to do in between games, and they're staying in our hotels, or they're staying in an Airbnb, or there's something from Greenspace right outside their door, and many of them aren't quite aware of it. But if you visit our website, greenspaceky.com, it lists all of our trails there and where they're located and how long they are. And it's such a wonderful thing to see people actually leaving Freeman Lake and starting to explore the other trails. And we're almost now, I think we're almost all the way around Elizabethtown. And I know Martin can speak on some of the final phases of that plan.
Yes, there's some development going on the north end, which we do hope will, as they revamp the I-65 corridor, they're putting in some additional exits and rearranging some of that. We hope to get a big leap over through Tunnel Hill Road, and from Tunnel Hill Road to Ring Road. And, of course, Ring Road will lead you over to the government building, which there's a trail over there. So that's part of the loop we're trying to complete. Then down on US 62 by the bypass, we have acquired a railroad bridge.
Oh, wow.
Yes, so that's a project we have in the next few years that we're excited to develop. That will connect us from Mulberry, from the Buffalo Trail all the way down to the college, and from the college all the way over to the government building.
When you all acquire property, do you have to do it in a certain way? Because I'm assuming some of this is not public domain.
Right.
So what's that process?
Well, we have a lot of good citizens in the city that actually donate right-of-ways to us. Sometimes we'll do a lease for land, and sometimes we'll do purchases. It just depends, if how that develops with the landowner.
I wanted to touch on, with it being the 50th anniversary, we were kind of talking about this before we rolled tape. It's like, how did this get started? Almost like, what was the impetus? And Paul, you were talking about as a high school student, you remembered Earth Day, and that was kind of like the flavor at that point. And it not that Earth Day started it, but people were more aware of it.
Oh, well, now I'm going back 50 years. As a high school student, and I think what you're saying is true. It began to become a thing in the 70s, this thing about nature and taking care of your planet, and so we developed in April of the third Saturday in April was Earth Day, and I think now there's an actual date. It might be the 20th of April, and that for 50 years that has been Earth Day, and so you concentrate on the awareness of what your community, what your state, what your nation chooses to do to make that awareness more prominent in everyone's mind. And as a high school student, putting this program together, we had a little group at the school, and so it was our group that hosted that for the town, and we had hundreds of people that showed up, and I think my parents thought that this was, what is this? We just thought, a few people would, friends and neighbors would come, but you know, and this is before the days of food trucks or anything, you know, you sold the brownies at
That's
the
right.
table or something, you know, so, and then making money, we made a lot of money off of selling paper flowers, very earthy kind of stuff, you know, and right on the verge of being like a hippie, but that has morphed into something much more important in that we are looking at the conservation of our earth and the awareness of nature and being outdoors and living a healthy lifestyle. And so if it all goes back to those first times when you begin to think about what is out there. So.
Matt, with that conservation idea, and you think about the Bridges to the Past that's in West Point,
Yes.
and then you have Saunders Springs in
Correct.
Radcliffe, and then the trail system here. I mean, for all the new people that are coming in, there's really something for everyone.
That's right, and really Greenspace and our volunteers have done such a wonderful job of making sure that our trails are not just rustic trails that, say, somebody in their 20s may want to run and participate on, but there are trails for all ages and abilities now in our Greenspace network. We have paved trails, we have natural trails, we have walking trails, running trails, but we have something there for every age, every ability, and the work that we've done with mountain bike trails now is really taken off and across the state. Our president, David, has done a wonderful job developing our mountain bike teams, and that's really attracted a lot of attention to Elizabethtown, bringing in a lot of families over on the weekends for these competitions. And we recently had a movie, our community conservation effort, that went nationwide, and we still get contacts from people there that like to see that, and we want to thank you here for showing that
And
recently.
we will show that, yes. It's
And
amazing.
that's we want to thank the Sampley brothers and all of the people that helped put that together as well. And you know, that's been seen across the nation, and that was really a wonderful thing, because now we still get contacts from people that want to model their town after what we're doing here and how we make these community connections and how we pull it all together. So it takes a lot of little efforts from a lot of different entities, but to culminate in the 50th anniversary is very, very special, because
Let's talk about the fun, okay? Let's go through all the things that's going to take place that day. And even beforehand, I'm assuming that if you mentioned volunteers, and so volunteers, you always need volunteers. So tell us a little bit about the birthday celebration.
Well,
Or anniversary.
Our anniversary will be, like I said earlier, out at Freeman Lake, and it will be on the 21st of September at 5 o'clock. And we'll have music provided, and we'll also do a very nice meal from farm to table. And our farmers market people are already on board for selecting our food, and everything coming from our own county is, to me, is kind of exciting. The actual program is yet to be determined. We have a few interesting things that we're developing at this point. So we just want people to come out and enjoy us and enjoy the evening to help us celebrate. They can go on our Facebook page, our website, and there's a little tab there that just says purchase ticket for this special event on the 21st, and they can buy their ticket there and join us for a special evening in celebrating Greenspace.
Martin, when you want to add something?
Well, we do have limited seating, 200,
Oh, okay.
and the tickets are starting to sell fairly quickly now, so we'd like to go ahead and see if you're interested in coming. Go ahead and reserve your ticket.
I think it'd be neat if you had people starting at different trails that end up into the park that day.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, that would be.
You know, it's like a little parade into the park, but just wonderful. As we wrap up, personally, what does Greenspace bring to you? And then what you think it might bring to the community? And I know, Matt, you mentioned early on, but why are you so passionate about?
Well, I think it's something that I've always enjoyed, being outdoors. And I think when you can share that passion and you turn that passion into a concentrated effort, And you're joined in that passion by so many others that share that love of outdoors and hiking and biking and paddling. It's a wonderful thing, and I think Greenspace has done just that over the 50 years. And so we're each individual that comes out, we're very glad to have them on our trails and share the experience of Greenspace with them, and go into our schools and teach them about nature education programs. And so it's a culminating effort, and it's really a wonderful thing to be a part of. And I encourage businesses and other organizations that might want to get involved to contact Greenspace through our website, greenspaceky.com, and they can organize, their businesses can organize trail cleanup events and other things that they can do to help us. And so it goes beyond just donating money. We want you to be actively involved and come out and help us with our trails.
That's right. It does take manpower.
It takes
woman
manpower, that's right.
Kid power, all of us.
It's a village.
Yeah, that's right. Paula, you?
For me, it is just the pure joy of nature, of being outdoors. And I have to tell you, over the years, seeing young families out on the trails and seeing the joy in their faces is, I feel like I'm passing that on just by the fact that I'm passing them. The other thing I wanted to say is the high school groups that come out, or the scout troops that come out to do cleanup. They love this. It's like, oh, I didn't know this was out here, and oh, can we go for a little walk? And of course you can. But when it's new to them, they want somebody to lead. And we've had many opportunities to actually lead hikes, which for us it's just like this is our backyard practically. But for a lot of people that's new, and they want a little help with that, and then they can become comfortable on the trails. So it's all ages and all levels of experience and interest. So the awareness of what we have is very important to get that out to everyone.
And Martin?
Well, I guess from the beginning, it started out a little bit as an environmental area to help preserve waterways.
Right.
So the trails were designed next to the creeks and with a widespread of buffer zone. And it's exciting to see how it's developed into a total community event.
Right.
It's good to see that young people now sit down a lot, watch a lot of TV and video games and phones, and it's good to see them walking on the trail.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, I want to thank all of you so much for educating me and also our community about Greenspace and its 50th anniversary. And I thank you at home for watching us. And if you have any questions, please go to the website. Again, Matt, it is
Greenspaceky.com.
Okay, awesome. And make sure that you attend the anniversary coming up in September. Thank you. And this is this special edition of Issues and Insights.